I'm Bonnie D'Arcangelo, co-founder of AEtherbal, where we create topical products for what ails you. Today, I'm going to talk a little bit about our company and our products and what makes them unique and why they are so highly effective. I'm going to share some pre-prepared slides with you today and go through them and try and make everything as digestible as possible. So to begin, we're going to start talking a little bit about the name of the company because everybody always asks, how do you pronounce this? So it's kind of like tomato and tomato or potato and potato. Depending on where you come from, it depends on how you're going to say it. And that's quite all right with us. Sometimes I say atherbal, sometimes I say etherbal. Nobody's going to tell you you're wrong. So how we came about with this name, because I'm very big into naming things, and if you know any of my other companies or any of the names of my children, you will know I love making up names. So the name Etherbal is derived from the word eon, which means an indefinite and long period of time. And then the T is a plus sign, so meaning as in together with, herbal, meaning medicine from the earth. So Etherbal is a word that we created that means medicine from the earth that will last a long period of time, aka into the future. And that's why we refer to AEtherbal as the future of herbal medicine. So what everybody wants to know is, what makes your company unique? Well, first, I'm going to start with a little bit about our brand's mission and a little bit of storytelling. And it's my favorite part about talking about my company is the storytelling part because I love to tell stories. So our brand's mission is to ask the question, what ails you? And to provide you with a solution that is high quality, effective, and all natural. And I want to point out the most important word in that entire sentence, and that word is effective, because we need to make herbal medicine highly effective so that people get the results that they need, and they get those results immediately. So, on to the storytelling. So, lots of people ask why the phrase, what ails you? And I chose this phrase as the tagline for the company because I was really inspired by the story of Parzival. Parzival was a man who lived during the time of King Arthur. And his father was a knight who was killed in battle, and his mother did not want Parzival to become a knight. So she hid him away from the world. And he grew up being very naive and innocent and knowing nothing about the world. And one day he came upon some knights and he viewed them as these gods. They were like nothing he had ever seen before, living this rural farm life. And he wanted to be like one of them. So he left his home and went on a journey to try and discover how he could become one of these knights. And during this journey, Parsifal makes many, many mistakes and does many, many embarrassing things. And it's like when you're watching a movie and the actor in the movie or the character in the movie is doing something that is just so embarrassing, and you're sitting there saying, no, 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 please don't do that. And you're just humiliated for them. That's kind of like the story of Parsifal. He does these things and you're just like, oh, like I wish I could just go in there and help you. But he goes along all of these journeys and eventually ends up becoming one of King Arthur's knights. And after becoming a knight, he decides that he wants to go out into the world and prove himself. And on his journeys, he ends up finding the Grail Castle and is invited into the Grail Castle by the Grail King. And while there, he is party to this feast of this magnificent magical splendors. He sees all these things happening that he can't explain. And Parsifal really wants to ask questions. But in all of his prior experiences, Parsifal was told that he shouldn't ask too many questions and that it was impolite to ask questions, especially when you are a new guest somewhere. He had teachers who told him he shouldn't ask questions. He had people who told him he shouldn't ask questions, and it really imprinted on Parsifal. And so while he was at the Grail Castle, he didn't ask any questions. At the end of the feast, he falls asleep at the castle, but he wakes up and he's no longer at the castle. He's lying on the ground. And he is unable to find the Grail castle again. And in the story, it tells you that the reason why Parsifal is ejected from the Grail castle is because he failed to ask the question. And the story goes on and it's very specific that there is one singular question that Parsifal was supposed to ask the Grail King. And neither the reader nor Parsifal know what this question is. And Parsifal goes through a series of other tests and trials, wandering around aimlessly, trying to find his way back to the Grail Castle. And then he has that final epiphany. And he finds himself back at the Grail Castle. And he knows now that he was supposed to ask a question to the Grail King. And that question was, what ails you? And by asking the Grail King what ails you, he would have set the Grail King free from his suffering. See, the Grail King was very old and aged and in terrible pain. And when he asked the Grail King what ails you, it set the Grail King free, and he was allowed to pass and leave this earthly life. And then Parsifal became the next Grail King. The important lesson here is that sometimes it is important to ask the right question. So often in life, people just tell you they're doing fine. And you may have an inclination that there's something else deeper on the surface. But we don't want to impose upon another person. Now, I'm not saying go around asking people all kinds of uncomfortable personal questions, of course. But what I am saying is that we have to look deeper at the internal aspects of people. And so AEtherbal is my way of asking people what ails you, in the hopes that by asking you the question, I can set you free from your pain. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time here talking about what we call our base formula. And in subsequent videos where we talk about individual topical preparations, it's going to be really important to kind of have a handle on our base formula because I won't repeat this information. And it is this base formula that is really important and is what makes our topicals different and sets us apart from every other product, herbal product on the market. So a little bit here first, all of our products are made in an FDA registered facility and are GMP compliant. Our ingredients are organic and biodynamic when available. We really strive to put the best quality ingredients in all of our products. If our products are not certified organic or coming from a biodynamic farm, we make sure that we get a non-GMO statement from our vendors prior to including them in our ingredients. All of our ingredients are naturally derived. There are no synthetics and no nanotechnology because we get asked this a lot about our products if we include nanotechnology in there to help with our advanced delivery system, and we do not include any nanotechnology. I always like to say to everybody that the ingredients in our products are something that anybody could make if you knew how to make them and knew how to find and access all of the ingredients. But the most important ingredient in all of our topicals is our orthosilicic acid. And so I'm going to spend a little bit time talking about what orthosilicic acid is and why it's so important and absolutely vital to be included in a topical care product if we are going to want to help people to heal and restore from whatever their ailments are. And so first to start, orthosilicic acid is the kind of a composition name of our final end result of our silicon. And it delivers the forgotten macronutrient silicon or silica. So many people will be familiar with what silica is. Comes in a couple different forms, so that's sand or quartz crystal. And neither of those are water soluble or absorbable by the body. So we process our silica into a form called orthosilicic acid, which is water soluble and absorbable by the body. In fact, it is highly absorbable by the body. I want to talk a little bit more about why it is so highly absorbable by the body. But silicon is the third most abundant trace element in the human body. It is absolutely essential for bone formation and building of connective tissues. We're talking about our collagen, cartilage, and elastin production in the body all require silicon. And I love this too. It's really important because when we hear about those blue zones out in the world where people are living longer, healthier lives in these blue zones than people are in other places throughout the world, one of the commonalities found in all of these blue zones is that their water sources are very high in silicon. And this is important for our health on so many levels. There's a lot of research onto the cardiovascular benefits of silicon. And if we think about like what are the muscles and the tissues surrounding the heart, we're talking about the collagen, the cartilage and elastin. And so the silicon is helping to build and keep those strong and healthy. Silicon has been called the beautifying mineral because without it, our skin, our hair, and our nails are going to be brittle and break. So silicon or orthosilicic acid is really important in our beauty and our health and has a lot of anti-aging benefits, especially when combined with hyaluronic acid, which every single one of our base formulas includes hyaluronic acid, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So I like to touch upon too the importance of silicon for plant growth because the plants are what we eat, and this is one of the sources in which we naturally get silicon. But as many of us are aware, we are living in the age of the death of nutrition, in which our food is not providing the minerals and the nutrients that we need because our soils are so highly depleted. So there's a lot of applications for the use of orthosilicic acid in agriculture as well, because this is going to build stronger, healthier plants that are more disease resistant. They're able to withstand environmental stresses. And so I like to relate these plant features that are well studied with orthosilicic acid back to the human being. Because if it can help a plant to be stronger, more resilient, disease resistant, and handle environmental stresses, what do we think that it can do for us as well? So what is different about our orthosilicic acid than every other orthosilicic acid on the market? Well, that is because our orthosilicic acid exists in what we call a plasma hydrate. So what is plasma? Plasma, as we are referencing it, is the fourth phase of water. So there are four phases of water. Most everybody only knows of three of them, and that's liquid, solid, and gaseous. But there is actually a fourth phase of water in which it exists in a plasmic state. And if we think about our human bodies, again, relating it back to ourselves, what are we? We're 80 to 85% water. And if you really stop to think about that, why is water not just pouring out of every pore and seam in our body? That's because it doesn't exist in the liquid state inside of our body. It exists in a plasma state, which is a gel-like substance. And so there's an excellent book by Gerald Pollack. He's the one who popularized the idea of the fourth phase of water. So anybody who's really interested in this concept, you can purchase his book and read more about it. And I highly encourage it because it's very fascinating. There's a lot of science and research being done on plasma right now. And if you Google about plasma, you're going to find out a lot of things about the universe too, because space is not empty. Space is full of plasma. And this plasma in space is really important because plasma conducts electromagnetic energy. And this is how energy is moving through these invisible pathways in space. And this is how the sun communicates and transfers energy to the earth as well. And I really encourage you to do some Google searches because there's some really crazy cool videos about this plasmic energy transfer from the sun to the earth and how it enters into our poles and has a large effect on why we see the aurora borealis. So, what is really important about using this silicon plasma hydrate, which is what we refer to our form of orthosilicic acid is one, it mimics the body's fluids. So, it's existing in a state of the same type of our bodies, our blood, our plasma, our water, all of our fluids. And this is why our body is capable of conducting electromagnetic energy signals throughout the body is because it's existing in that state of plasma. And plasma is a highly ionized particle where the electrons have separated from the atoms because it is so highly charged. And so if you think about where do we hear the phrase ionized? A lot in health. Well, we hear about it with alkaline water. What is alkaline water? It's ionized water. So that pH has been elevated. And you can do a lot of research as well onto the health benefits of alkaline water. And I wish I could remember off the top of my head the name of the lady. She did this really wonderful interview on the YouTube channel Ruin Soup with Gordon, one of my teachers. I really respect his work. And I can't remember her name, but she's the like known as the water lady. And she did this interview and it talked about how she actually found healing with this highly high alkaline water. And she had been in a car accident some many years before, a very severe car accident where she had had a lot of health issues and a lot of surgeries post-accident. And she started drinking this high alkaline water. And after some time of drinking it, she literally started to get these sores and wounds on her body that were painful and blistering. And she started to realize that there was something inside of these sores. And so she opened them up and out started coming little pieces of glass. She had post-accident still had hundreds of pieces of glass in her body. And as drinking this alkaline water, the body started to push the glass out of it and heal itself. So very fascinating. And again, like this plasma is working on so many different levels in the body because it is helping to fix the magnetic connections of the body's system. And so if we think about just our nervous system, our endocrine system, and our entire body, what is it doing? It is sending electrical signals. That is how we function. That is how we move. These are magnetic electrical connections throughout the body. And so having this highly charged healing plasma substance allows for the body to heal those magnetic connections, kind of similar to what one would think of what happens during getting acupuncture. They're improving these signals along the body's meridians. That's those electrical signal lines. So by having a higher intake of silicon plasma hydrate, you can help to repair those meridian lines. Next, we're going to talk just briefly about our patent pending formula. So our patent pending formula focuses on an amphiphilic emulsion technique that is binding water and oil together. So we already talked about orthosilicic acid being a water-based substance, and our herbal ingredients are primarily oil-based substances. And so our patent pending process creates an amphiphilic bond between the water and the oil and holds them in solution together. And this is really important because it mimics the affinity of the body towards a lipid bilayer. And what this is a protective layer surrounding our cells that has a hydrophobic and a hydrophilic region. And this keeps things from entering into the cell. unwanted. This keeps viruses and bacteria and other materials outside of the cell. And so this is really important because by mimicking this lipid bilayer of the body, we are able to again enter and exit that cell similar to the transportation methods of the bodies, which is known as endocytic vesicles. And so we include specific herbal formulations into our formulas that have a subcellular localization for those endocytic vesicles to make sure that we can transport in and out of the body the herbal medicine that we want to get deep into people's cells. So this is a new frontier of health and natural medicine because right now what is really popular is the liposomal delivery. Well, liposomal delivery is essentially just a fat blob that's attached to a molecule that allows whatever the substance, be it drug or natural product, to pass through the digestive system unaltered and enter into the cell. But this is only having the fat side of the cell. It doesn't mimic this lipid bilayer where it has the hydrophobic and the hydrophilic. So we want to have that water-loving tail and that oil-loving tail because that is important for not just moving things into the cell, but also for moving waste metabolites back out of the cell. So our base formula includes several other really, really vital healing agents. So the first one is hyaluronic acid, and hyaluronic acid naturally occurs in our body and it's distributed throughout our skin, our tissues, our joints, and it modifies the way the body responds to tissue damage and helps to increase wound healing rates. So this is really important for surface level healing, but it goes beyond the surface level healing because it also helps to work to lubricate the joints. And as we age, that body's natural lubrication starts to decrease and we start to have pain and inflammation from that lack of lubrication of the joints. So really important as a healing agent, but it's also really important as an anti-aging agent. So it's very, very popular. And there's other formulas out there on the market that combine plain orthosilicic acid with hyaluronic acid and is used as an anti-aging, anti-wrinkling agent. So the other thing that we include in all of our formulas is fulvic acid, and this is a really important antioxidant. And there's a lot of research being done on the anti-inflammatory and phytochemical properties of fulvic acid and the benefits that it can add to health. So the other thing that's really important about the fulvic acid is it has a short chain Dalton measurement. And if you read a little bit more about a lot of our topicals, I didn't touch on it, but our orthosilicic acid has a short chain Dalton measurement. The hyaluronic acid that we use has a variable Dalton measurement. So we use a high and a short chain Dalton measurement because the high chain, the larger chains are going to stay on the surface and not past the skin, and the short chains are going to be able to go past the skin tissue, past that skin barrier, and deeper into the skin and the cells. And so fulvic acid is another one of those carrying agents because of its short Dalton size that's helping things to move deeper into the cells. It also has astringent properties, so it's helping to cleanse and tone the surface area of the skin, and it can also help to support collagen production, which is adding to a supportive role of the orthosilicic acid, which is helping in that collagen formation. Next, we use aloe powder, and everybody's familiar with aloe. Everyone knows that it's great for sunburn, any kind of burn. It's good for wound healing. It can also be ingested for digestive health, but there is a lot more research about aloe that is really, really vital because it is going to help to facilitate the production of type 1 collagen growth. It also has been shown in the laboratory to help to improve angiogenesis, which is really important because that is the formation of new blood vessels, which occurs after an injury. So if you have a surgery or you have an injury that has caused damage to the skin and to the blood vessels, the body has to repair that. So it's called angiogenesis, the new formation of blood vessels. And it has been shown in studies that aloe powder increases this rate of angiogenesis, which speeds up wound healing. Lastly, we come to our Ethereum gold, or also known as monoatomic gold, or orbitally rearranged monoatomic elements. It is referred to as ORME or ORMUS. It comes in many, many different forms. Our monoatomic gold is coming from a purified ancient seabed that was the site of a meteoric impact. And Ethereum gold is known to have superconductor properties that helps with nerve pains and rebuilding of the myelin sheath. And this is, again, this is really important because when we're talking about all the aspects of the body that we have to include in a healing modality, especially if we're going back to an injury or a surgery where you have had a cut, an incision, or a break. We have blood vessels that need to be repaired and regrown. We have nervous system where the nerve endings have to be repaired and regrown. We have skin tissue. We have muscle tissue. We have collagen. We have cartilage. We have elastin. We have all of these things that have to be repaired. And so this base formula takes into consideration every single one of those aspects in a single formula. The base formula itself is so super packed with so many potential healing properties that we don't even have to add in the herbal ingredients afterwards. But we add in the herbal ingredients to supercharge everything with the most that we can to give the best benefit to our customers. And so we're not going to go through every single one of our herbal ingredients today. For that, you're going to have to tune into our individual videos for each one of our topicals. But I will say very, very briefly about our essential oils is that we use only high quality third-party tested essential oils to make sure that we are giving you the highest potency and quality possible. And then we use a lot of herbal extracts in our formulas as well. A good 85–90% of these extracts are made in-house using organic alcohol and organically sourced herbs that, again, we are ensuring for quality. And anything that we don't make in-house is very, very specific extracts. And again, you'll have to tune into each individual topical to find out a little bit more for them. And then lastly, we do use a few nutraceuticals, and by a few, I mean 3, because I can count the number of nutraceuticals that we use in our products. And I remember the day that we were debating as to whether or not we were going to add one into one of our topicals. And that's our Three Kings Silica Plus, in which we added in glucosamine sulfate. And we had a big debate about whether we are strictly an herbal products company that uses just herbal ingredients for our products, or if we were going to cross that bridge and add in some nutraceuticals. And the decision was that we really felt that the benefits of adding in just very few and very, very specific nutraceuticals added a significant offering to our customers that it was worth crossing that divide and adding in the nutraceuticals. So there's only a few that are included in our products. That's glucosamine sulfate, magnesium citrate, and iodine. And then I suppose we use a lot of vitamin E in our topicals as well, and that is technically a nutraceutical. And the reason why we add vitamin E to our topicals is because it helps to stabilize the essential oils and prevent oxidation. So our topicals obviously are going to be open and closed numerous times before somebody finishes a jar. And we wanted to make sure that these topicals were not going to spoil or lose their effects over time as the jar was repeatedly opened. So by adding in the vitamin E, it helps to stabilize the essential oils and keep them from oxidation. So that is going to be it for our discussion on our ingredients and what is included in our topicals and what makes them special and unique. And to learn more about each individual topical, please visit our other videos. And it has been a pleasure speaking with you today. Thank you so much.